Hey there, in today's Q&A, I'm going to be answering your saxophone-related questions from Instagram and elsewhere. Things like, can I learn to play the saxophone just from watching YouTube videos? And how do I get better faster? And why are Mark 6s so overpriced? Metcalf here from BetterSax.com. If you like the saxophone and saxophone videos like this one, do me a quick favor and drop me one of these right now and make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We are approaching 200,000 subscribers, and when that happens, I look forward to celebrating that milestone with you by giving away some really great prizes, and I've got some other surprises I can't wait to share with you. In the description below, I've put links to some of my free courses and other free downloadable resources, so be sure to check those out if you haven't already. What keeps you motivated to practice daily? That's easy. You know, we all have to find time in our day to practice, but just as important is finding time to listen to music. I listen to music every day while exercising. This way I'm getting two very important things done at the same time. Inevitably, the music inspires me to get in the practice room and do that every day. How to stop cutting my lip when playing too long. If you're cutting into your lip with your bottom teeth, you're definitely biting too much. This is like the #1 problem for all saxophone players, but especially beginners, is too much pressure from the jaw, which results in biting. There's a natural tendency to want to bite down on the reed, but we should all be actively resisting that at every level of ability. The problem is when your embouchure muscles are not fully developed and strong, it becomes difficult to keep your bottom lip fleshy and like a big fat cushion for the reed to vibrate on. What happens when we get tired is the corners of our mouth pull back and our bottom lip stretches out. Also, developing players often feel like the sound is coming from here, but it's not. The sound is coming from the reed vibrating, which is a result of the airstream. So you always want the air to be doing the work of creating the sound, and you want your embouchure to stay relaxed so it can allow that reed to vibrate as freely as possible. Another indicator that you're biting or putting too much pressure on the mouthpiece and reed is if you are biting through your mouthpiece patches. I recommend everyone use a mouthpiece patch to protect the mouthpiece, protect your teeth, and to kind of reduce the uncomfortable vibrations that can come from playing the saxophone without some sort of a cushion there. If you bite through that mouthpiece cushion, that's a bad sign. If you've got a nice, relaxed, loose embouchure, a mouthpiece cushion should really last for years. Can I learn saxophone just from watching YouTube videos? Learning the saxophone or music is not like learning how to make sourdough bread, for example. There's a lot more to it than just following instructions or following a recipe. While I'm learning new things about music every day on YouTube and also teaching music on the internet, the most important elements of learning music happen on an individual level while you're making music or listening to music. What I mean is having the instructions is not enough. Right now on the internet, just about all of the available information about music is there for you for free. But no amount of information can make you good at music. It's the practicing, performing, and listening to music over a long period of time that can add up to getting good at it. So while I think there are pros and cons to both online lessons and face-to-face lessons, what matters much more is what each individual student does with the information they get from their teachers. Music is also a form of communication. Just like with languages, you can learn a lot from books and videos and apps, But in order to learn how to really communicate in that language, you're going to need other humans around to do that with. Music is the same thing. I say take full advantage of all of the wonderful resources and the information that is now available to all of us online. But don't forget, there are going to be essential pieces of the puzzle missing if you're not making music with other people. How to practice doubles. I play Barry mainly, and I'm trying to get better at tenor. That's a great question. Well, the fingerings are the same on all the saxophones. It's reasonable to think that if you can sound good and play one well, then you can play the other ones. That's not the case. You really got to spend time with each instrument to get the voicing of the notes right, get the intonation right, get the sound right. So I recommend if you want to get good at another saxophone, you make that your main horn for daily practice for a while. I mainly play alto and tenor, and the way I practice that is I'll stick with one for weeks or months at a time, and then I'll switch. If I wanted to get good at playing soprano, for example, I would just play soprano for a long time, and I'd be doing a lot of long tones and overtones. What do you find helps you improve the most in the shortest amount of time? I know this is going to sound counterintuitive to a lot of people, but in my experience, having the patience to go slow is the thing that yields the fastest results. The tortoise and the hare fable really applies to music. Being in a rush to get better is a huge obstacle for so many developing players. When we practice with that inner rush mindset, we not only get less accomplished more slowly, we also are usually reinforcing and developing bad habits that are going to take even more time later on to correct. So the two things that help me to improve relatively quickly, let's say, are number one, practicing everything slowly with a focus on accuracy over speed, and number two, consistency. Practicing every day makes a huge difference from practicing 3 or 4 days a week, let's say. Make sure you're thinking long-term with your musical goals. Each practice session is just going to be, at best, a drop in the ocean of things you want to learn over a long period of time. And if with each practice session you're able to improve just a tiny amount, then you've really accomplished something. What does raising the back of your tongue mean, and how do you do it? A lot of people talk about raising the back of your tongue, especially when you're trying to play in the altissimo range. The concept, as I've heard it, is raising the tongue in the back somehow makes the air go faster, which in turn makes getting higher frequencies out on the saxophone easier. While it sounds logical, the problem with this idea is that the speed of the air is fixed by the tip opening in your mouthpiece. No amount of changing the shape of your oral cavity can effectively change the speed of a given volume of air that's going through a fixed tip opening. That's not to say that moving your tongue around and raising it up in the back has no effect on the sound. Let's do an experiment. I'm going to play some notes on my saxophone while moving my tongue around into extreme positions. The first position is going to be natural, neutral, where it is normally when I'm playing, which is just kind of where your tongue is, let's say, when you're asleep. The next position is going to be with the tongue pushed all the way forward up against my bottom teeth. The next position is going to be with my tongue on the roof of my mouth, like that. And then finally, I'm going to raise the tongue up in the back. For most of the normal range of the saxophone, these extreme tongue positions have very little effect on the sound or even intonation of the notes. Once I get above high F sharp though, I can no longer get the notes to sound with my tongue on the roof of my mouth. I don't know why that is, but I guess it does prove that the tongue position matters to some degree at least. I learned to play the altissimo range and all the overtones without ever hearing about this concept of raising the tongue up in the back. So if I'm doing it when I'm playing, I'm doing it entirely unconsciously. Not being able to see inside my mouth while I'm playing, I can only offer a best guess as to what changes, if any, I'm making with my tongue and my throat. I do feel that throat position changes slightly for every note on the saxophone, but those changes are subtle. To me, it feels like there is a sweet spot for each note where you get a nice balanced tone and you can get it in tune. The only way to find those sweet spots, though, is through playing a lot, developing embouchure strength and flexibility, and developing a tonal concept through lots of listening. So by all means, when you're practicing your long tones, experiment with different tongue positions and throat shapes, but keep in mind that we each need to find that individual sweet spot for each note that is individual to us as humans, as well as the mouthpiece setup we're using and the saxophone we're playing. Do you think BetterSax will hit 1 million subscribers? I'm going to say yes, just in case one day there are 1 million subscribers, I can look back at this video and say, I knew it. How can I move from pushing with my lungs to pushing with my stomach? Great question, easy to answer. You can't. There's only one mechanism in the human body for pushing out or pulling in air, and that's the diaphragm. Try to breathe without using your diaphragm. Go ahead, try it. This is a big misconception in wind instrument education, and something that's probably really confusing to people when they hear it. What a teacher is trying to tell you, I believe, is to take deeper, fuller breaths that fill up your entire air capacity in your lungs, and then use your diaphragm muscle to control the steady release of that air. For example, start with an empty tank. We want to fill up with fresh air full of oxygen, and we don't want any of the old, stale, already used air taking up valuable space, so push it out. Then the diaphragm contracts, effectively pulling in new air to our lungs. Allow your lungs to expand inside your rib cage as far as they can. On exhale, the diaphragm expands, pushing the air out. Practicing long tones is the best way that I know to develop that steady, controlled release of the air into the saxophone. Where can I buy one of those cool t-shirts? That's easy. BetterSax.com/merch. For someone just starting jazz sax, what's something they can do to start creating their own sound? There's a very strange concept out there that we each need to work specifically on developing our own unique individual sound. I don't see how it's possible to not have your own individual sound for any advanced player, just like it's not possible for any of us to not have our own individual speaking voice or face for that matter. We are all individuals, and your sound and style is going to develop along its own unique path no matter what you do. Even if you were to devote all of your practice time into sounding exactly like one of your heroes, you wouldn't be able to do it. Just like the greatest impersonators can get really close to impersonating someone else's voice, it's never exactly the same. In jazz improvisation, your sound is not just your tone, but it's your phrasing, your articulation, your rhythm, the language that you use, and lots more things. In a system with infinite possibilities, you can never get the same thing twice. So my advice to you is to listen to a lot of great players and spend a lot of time with those who connect with you the most. This is the best way to find your true voice, which is inevitably going to be a mixture of lots of different influences as interpreted by you. What's the best way to get used to a bigger tip opening? That's easy. Softer reeds. The reed has to travel the distance of the tip opening. So a softer reed is going to make it easier to get that reed vibrating with less energy, less air. What's your favorite way to keep focused by practicing boring exercises like long tones? I don't find long tones to be particularly boring anymore, and that's probably because I understand deeply the benefits I'm getting from practicing them. I actually did a video about this recently, which I'll link to in the description below. I only spend 5 to 10 minutes on them though. I do long tones over the full range of the instrument, then I practice with just the mouthpiece alone, and then I do some overtone work. It's not so much the fact that I'm spending a lot of time on those things, it's more the consistency. It's just doing it a little bit every day over long periods of time that gives me the results. Why are Mark 6s so overpriced? Nostalgia, mythology, good marketing from those people selling them. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to follow BetterSax on Instagram for loads of bonus content. And you can also put your questions in the comments section below, and maybe I can answer them in a future Q&A session.